Hi, my name is Caroline Jenkins and this is Anderson, and we're here to tell you the story of Jonah and the whale. This is in the book of Jonah in the Old Testament, chapters 1 through to about verse 10. So Jonah was God's messenger. And you want to show him Jonah? God had a job for Jonah, but Jonah didn't want it. Go to Nineveh, God said, and tell your worst enemies that I love them. No, said Jonah. These are bad people doing bad things. Exactly, said God. They have run far away from me, but I can't stop loving them. I will give them a new start. I will forgive them. No, said Jonah, they don't deserve it. I'll run away, Jonah told himself. Far away, so far away that God won't be able to find me. Then I won't have to do what God says. It's a good plan, he said, because as far as he knew, it was a good plan. But of course it wasn't a good plan at all. It was a silly plan because you can run away from God, but he will always come and find you. Jonah went ahead with his not very good plan. One ticket to not Nineveh, please, he said, and boarded a boat sailing in the very opposite direction of Nineveh. This is Clara. She's going to help us too. So here's a picture from the Jesus Storybook Bible. I'm going to show the picture this is from Baby's first Bible stories. Okay, so Jonah's on the boat. Will you show us the boat? Well, it wasn't long before a fierce wind blew and the boat started to lurch. So show Jonah on the boat. And pitch and roll, and everyone started turning green like they were going to be seasick. Jonah sat bolt upright in his bed. He's not there. Let's put him in the boat. Jonah sat bolt upright in his bed. He's on the boat. He's like, what in the world is going on with the sea? It's so crazy. You see, the first thing that went wrong with Jonah's not very good plan was that God sent a big storm after him. The sailors couldn't sail their ship properly. We're sinking! They screamed and started throwing everything overboard, their suitcases, food, whatever they could find. Have you ever been so scared you just overreacted like these guys did? By now, Jonah knew that the storm was his fault. Throw me in instead, he said. Put Jonah up at the screen. And he shouted to the sailors, and the storm will stop. The sailors weren't so sure. It's the only way you can be saved, Jonah cried. And so 1, 2, 3, Jonah jumps off the boat. Show Jonah jumping off the boat into the sea. Splash! No sooner had Jonah hit the water than the waves grew calm. The wind died down, and the storm stopped. Just then, when Jonah thought it was all over, when he was sure he was going to drown, God sent a big fish to rescue him. A lot of Bibles say it's a whale. It's really just a big fish. We don't have a whale, but we have a dolphin, so you can imagine.
My dolphin.
So the fish swallowed up Jonah whole with one big gulp. But this wasn't a bad thing. You see, like a dolphin wouldn't eat a person. The fish didn't eat Jonah to digest him. The fish ate Jonah to keep him safe inside his belly. It's a miracle. So Jonah must have thought he died. It was so dark in there, like in a tomb. But then he smelled the rotting food and he felt the slimy seaweed and he knew he wasn't dead. He was in the belly of a fish. Look, he's okay. He's right there in the belly of the fish. Sitting there in the darkness for 3 whole days. What do 3 days remind you of? On the third day, Jesus rose from the dead. So 3 is usually an important number in the Bible. He was there for 3 whole days, and Jonah had plenty of time to think. Kind of like sitting at home during COVID when you can't be with your friends and family. You can just think and think. So pretty soon he realized his plan was, well, a very silly plan indeed. He was sorry for running away. He prayed to God from inside the great fish and asked God to forgive him. Have you ever prayed to God to forgive you? God is always listening to our prayers, and God was listening to Jonah that day. God was protecting Jonah because Jonah was God's messenger. So listen to what happened. After 3 days, the fish spat Jonah safely out onto the sandy beach. Spit him out. Just then, Jonah heard someone calling his name. Go to Nineveh, God called. And this time, Jonah said yes. He went straight to Nineveh and told everyone God's wonderful message. Even though you've run far from God, he can't stop loving you, Jonah told them. Run to him so he can forgive you. The people of Nineveh listened to Jonah and they started loving God. They learned to do what God said and to stop running from him, just like Jonah. Many years later, God was going to send another messenger with the same wonderful message. Like Jonah, he would spend 3 days in utter darkness. But this messenger, with a big M, because it's Jesus, would be God's own Son. He would be called the Word, because he himself would be God's message translated into our own language, everything God wanted to say to the whole world in a person. But that's thousands of years after Jonah. Right now, we're just learning about Jonah. So to refresh, here's the Cliff Notes version in the baby's first Bible stories. I'm going to tell you the story. God asked Jonah to do some work for him, but Jonah did not want to do what God told him. He decided to run away on the ship. The wind blew hard and the waves grew huge, and Jonah knew God was angry. So sometimes when we know God wants us to do something and then we decide not to do it, or we do something completely different, we realize things aren't quite the way we probably want them to be, because they're not the way God wants them to be. So throw me into the sea, Jonah said, and the sailors threw him overboard. Let's recap. Show us the boat. And the storm ended. Jonah was on the ship and there was a storm. Jonah was off the ship and the storm ended. An enormous whale swallowed Jonah, and Jonah prayed to God and said that he was sorry for running away. And at last, God made the whale spit Jonah out into the dry land. Spit him out. Spit him out. Jonah went to do God's work. He was sorry for running away, and God forgave him. So I hope you enjoyed our story today.
Hi.
And we can learn from Jonah that even when we mess up and we don't listen to God right away, we can ask for forgiveness and listen to God and become God's messenger and help others to know God's love.
Bye.
Thanks.